June 1962, the Tenere Desert, 1,000 kilometers south of Tripoli, northern Chad. 5 vehicles roll out of the sand and into the scorching noon light. They are not tanks, they are not armoured cars, they carry no heavy weapons, no sophisticated electronics, no cooling systems. They are truck chassis, steel ladder frames, leaf springs, diesel engines and canvas doors. The thermometer reads 52 degrees Celsius. The nearest French outpost is 600 kilometers behind them. The nearest mechanic is further still. The legionnaires driving them are part of a French army evaluation program called Mission Fennec. 5 prototype vehicles, 10 soldiers, and a simple question. Could a vehicle built in a bankrupt factory in the Loire Valley actually survive the most hostile terrain on Earth? Over the next 6 months, those 5 vehicles covered 30,000 kilometers of the Sahara. They broke down, they were repaired with whatever was on hand. They ran out of fuel, refueled from cans and kept moving. They were never recovered by helicopter. They were never abandoned. They came back. The vehicle that survived Mission Fennec would go on to equip the French Foreign Legion, the British Special Air Service in Afghanistan, and the Presidential Guard of a dozen African states. It would father an armoured personnel carrier that has fought in the mountains of Mali, the forests of Cameroon, and the trenches of Ukraine. It would reach its 500th unit of production in March 2020, with more than 20 nations under its belt, still being manufactured under new ownership in 2026. Its name was the ACMAT, and it was built on the simplest idea in French military engineering, a truck that any mechanic in any desert could fix. To understand why the ACMAT Bastion exists, you need to understand the problem France faced after 1962. The end of the Algerian War did not only mean the end of empire, it meant the end of the customer base for an entire generation of French military vehicle manufacturers. René Legueux had spent 14 years building his company, Atelier Legueux de Meaux, into the preferred supplier of converted all-wheel drive trucks for the French colonial army. When the contracts disappeared, the company went with them. René died. The Meaux site was expropriated. The firm collapsed. His son, Paul Legueux, was 37 years old and had grown up inside his father's workshops. He salvaged what remained, moved the operation to Saint-Nazaire on the Loire estuary, renamed it Atelier de Construction Mécanique de l'Atlantique, and sat down to build a vehicle from nothing. What he built in 1967 was the VLRA, the Véhicule Léger de Reconnaissance et d'Appui. It was a 4x4 tactical truck with a 2.5-ton payload, a range of 1,600 kilometers, a 200-litre drinking water tank in the chassis, and the distinguishing design choice that would define everything ACMAT ever produced. Over 3,500 components were shared across the entire vehicle family. Every variant, every body style, every configuration used the same engine, the same gearbox, the same transfer case ACMAT had designed and patented in-house. A mechanic who understood one ACMAT vehicle could repair any of them. A French army industrialist profiled Paul Legueux in 1982 and described him as stocky and determined, carved out of more than 20 years of stubborn longerons. He was a man, the profile said, made happy by a good product, good customers, and good workers. Not elegant, not fashionable, effective. The French Foreign Legion adopted the VLRA. The Troupes de Marine adopted the VLRA. In 1996, the British Special Air Service purchased 20 units of the TPK 420 variant for use in special operations. More than 12,000 ACMAT vehicles were eventually sold to over 50 countries. The vehicle carried French presidential motorcades at Bastille Day parades. It was the default chassis of Francophone Africa. In 2006, Renault Trucks Defense acquired ACMAT. Paul Legueux had died in 1998. But the design philosophy he planted in Saint-Nazaire had taken root too deeply to be uprooted by a corporate acquisition. In 2009, ACMAT revealed its second-generation chassis, the VLRA2. A year later, at the Eurosatory Defense Exhibition in Paris in June 2010, they placed a welded steel box on top of it and called the result the Bastion. The armoured personnel carrier had arrived. The Bastion is not complicated. That is entirely the point. According to Army Guide technical data, the vehicle sits at a combat weight of 12 tons on a 4x4 drivetrain with central tyre inflation, run-flat tyres, and a 2-speed transfer case. The original Renault 5-litre turbodiesel produced 180 horsepower. A later variant pushed that to 215. In 2020, Arquus announced a 270 horsepower 4-cylinder option as part of the 500th vehicle production milestone. The armour is high-hardness welded steel meeting Stanag 4569, Level 2 to 3 ballistic protection. That means 7.62mm rounds at 30 meters will not penetrate. Level 2 mine protection means a mine directly under the wheel or hull will not kill the crew. The glass is ballistic to the same standard. The vehicle carries a crew of 2 and 8 fully equipped infantry, transported in 8.5 cubic meters of protected internal space. The armament position accepts a 7.62mm or 12.7mm machine gun, or a 40mm automatic grenade launcher. 3 smoke grenade dischargers protect each side. The range is 1,000 kilometers at minimum. Some configurations extend to 1,400. A 120-litre drinking water tank is built into the base chassis. It carries no electronic battlefield management system. It has no fire control computer. Air conditioning is optional. Power-assisted steering is optional. The suspension on the base variant is leaf springs. Compare this with the armoured vehicles Western armies were fielding in the same decade. The Cougar, the Max Pro, the Boxer, systems that required laptop diagnostics, manufacturer-trained technicians, and logistics pipelines stretching back to European factories, systems that, in the words of Arcus's own engineering description, required an OEM service contract to keep running. The Bastion's pitch was the inverse of all of that. It shared roughly 80% of its parts with the VLRA trucks already scattered across Africa. A Malian soldier who had spent a decade maintaining a 1980 VLRA could open the Bastion's engine bay and recognize everything he saw. In the Sahel, that is not a luxury. That is survival. If you are finding value in this kind of detailed look at modern military hardware, hit subscribe. It takes 1 second, it costs nothing, and it allows this channel to keep producing work like this. The Bastion's first combat deployment was not a gradual introduction. It arrived in the middle of a war, January 2013. An Islamist coalition had collapsed northern Mali and was advancing south. France launched Operation Serval on 11 January. Chad, France's most capable African partner, immediately committed its Détachement d'Action Rapide, a rapid reaction force equipped with the newly delivered Bastion Panzers variant. The PATSAS, a semi-open-top configuration developed with French Special Forces for long-range desert patrol, combined mobility with a 12.7mm heavy machine gun and range sufficient to operate hundreds of kilometers from any support base. In February 2013, Chadian forces entered the Adrar des Sifogas, a broken mountain range in northern Mali, where the jihadist group Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb had built deep defensive positions among the cliffs and gullies of the Tigaga Valley. The force was commanded at the highest level by General Oumar Bikimo, with a young brigadier general named Mohammed Idris Deby serving as deputy commander. He was 28 years old, the son of President Idris Deby, and he rode into the Tigaga aboard the PATSAS. The battle lasted weeks. The terrain was brutal. Resupply was intermittent. The PATSAS operated across the mountain approaches while French Special Forces penetrated the cave systems on foot. According to Raids magazine's September 2013 issue, covering the first combat use of the Bastion family, the vehicles proved capable in extreme terrain that would have stopped heavier armoured platforms entirely. Mohammed Idris Deby is today the president of Chad. The Bastion he rode into battle had been delivered fewer than 30 days before the campaign began, 3 years later, December 16th. 2016. Nassoumbou, Burkina Faso, 5 kilometers from the Malian border. At 05:30 in the morning, approximately 40 fighters attacked a position held by the Groupement des Forces Anti-Terroristes, a 600-man combined army and gendarmerie battalion deployed to the border region in January 2013. The attack was sudden, concentrated, and devastating. 12 Burkinabe soldiers were killed. 1 bastion was destroyed. The attack was later attributed to Ansarul Islam, a jihadist organization led by Ibrahim Malam Dicko. It was the first major jihadist attack on Burkinabe soil. President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore appeared on national television that evening and confirmed the losses, stating that the fight against terrorism would be without respite. The Nassoumbou attack opened a phase of the Sahel insurgency that has not yet ended. Burkina Faso had taken delivery of its first 10 bastions in 2012, one of the earliest export customers. The Burkinabe fleet grew into the dozens. Some were operated by the Régiment de Sécurité Présidentielle under General Gilbert Diendéré, the man who orchestrated the failed coup of September 2015, against the transitional government in Ouagadougou. Panzers vehicles were photographed on the streets of the capital that week. The coup failed, the RSP was dissolved. Diendéré was eventually sentenced to life imprisonment in 2022 for the assassination of President Thomas Sankara in 1987. The same vehicle type had carried him to power and failed to keep him there. In Cameroon, the story is less troubled. The Bataillon d'Intervention Rapide, trained by American and Israeli advisors, received 23 bastions in 2015 and 2016, funded by the United States Department of Defense through the AFRICOM Security Assistance Program. A further 15 arrived in late 2017 specifically for deployment against Boko Haram in the far north region. The battalion calls them Cyclones. Multiple accounts from BIR officers describe the bastions as a fundamental change in capability. Before their arrival, patrols operated in unarmoured 4x4 vehicles. Boko Haram ambushes using small arms and rocket-propelled grenades had produced heavy casualties. The bastion's protection level, adequate against small arms fire and light improvised explosive devices, was enough to change the calculus of those engagements. In 2021, Cameroon received a further 33 bastions for its United Nations peacekeeping contingent in the Central African Republic, ordered through the Cameroonian Ministry of National Defense. The same American trust in the bastion's suitability for African security partners produced a broader procurement. According to a Defense Web report citing Jane's defense data from October 2015, the United States Department of Defense signed a contract with MAC Defense of Allentown, Pennsylvania, to supply 62 bastions to partner nations across AFRICOM. Kenya received 12 vehicles in November 2018. Uganda received 19 for its African Union mission contingent in Somalia. By the time ARCUS announced the 500th bastion in March 2020, the vehicle had been acquired by at least 20 nation-states across Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and Northern Europe. Saudi Arabia had purchased 71 PATSAS in 2016 for Special Forces operations in Yemen. Sweden fielded the up-armoured Fortress variant with its Special Operations Forces. Senegal deployed 29 vehicles at its Independence Parade in Dakar on April 4, 2019, purchased through a $30 million grant from Saudi Arabia. Commandant Amath Diouf commanded the contingent that morning. In 2020, the European Union's training mission in Mali handed 13 more bastions to the Malian armed forces as part of a G5 Sahel package that also equipped Niger, Mauritania, Chad, and Burkina Faso. The purpose was to field the five-nation joint force against the very insurgency the Bastion had been fighting since 2013. The Bastion's competitors in this market have never seriously threatened its position in Francophone Africa. The Panhardam III, its predecessor, was lighter and carried fewer troops. Its part supply had dried up by the 2000s. The Otokar Cobra, a Turkish design on a converted American Humvee chassis, offers comparable protection, but carries fewer soldiers and depends on a supply chain rooted in Ankara rather than Saint-Nazaire. The Russian BTR-80 is amphibious and faster, but it is fuel-thirsty, complex, and its spare parts now flow from a country under international sanctions. What none of these vehicles offer is the Bastion's core advantage, the entire VLRA logistics network already inside the customer's army. In 2018, ARCUS formalized its position in the American market by signing a license agreement with AM General, the manufacturer of the Humvee, to produce the Bastion in the United States for the Foreign Military Sales Channel. The armoured ambulance variant was submitted for evaluation by the United States Army. That year, ARCUS was acquired by the Belgian defence group John Cockerell Defence. The deal closed on July 2, 2024. The Saint-Nazaire factory continues to produce. John Cockerell Defence Projects combined annual revenue of €1 billion by 2026. The story has one more irony worth noting. In November 2022, France offered a batch of approximately 20 bastions to Ukraine free of charge. Ukraine rejected them. According to reporting in West France, Kiev judged them inadequately shielded against artillery fire and anti-tank missiles. France redirected the vehicles through the port of Poti in Georgia to Armenia, which accepted delivery of 24 in November 2023. 18 months later, Ukraine reversed its decision. ARCUS signed a contract for 61 bastions. The Ukrainian side, according to ARCUS advisor Bertrand Boyard, had opted for a true entry-level armoured vehicle. 11 were delivered, 50 more were in production. A vehicle refused as insufficient for a European war was shipped to the same war anyway. June 1962, the Tenere Desert. 5 trucks and 10 legionnaires and 30,000 kilometres ahead of them. The ACMAT Bastion has no composite armour. It has no active protection system. Its base suspension is leaf springs. It offers no protection against a heavy anti-tank guided missile or an artillery round, or a large-shaped charge. Ukraine was right to say so, and wrong to think it made no difference. It has fought in the mountains of northern Mali, in the forests of Cameroon, in the streets of Ouagadougou, in the borderlands of Burkina Faso, where 12 men died before dawn on a December morning. It has carried Chadian commanders into some of the most violent engagements of the West African Jihad. It has been purchased by 20 nations across 5 continents. It reached 500 units in production in 2020 and has not stopped since. It is not the most protected vehicle in its class. It is not the fastest. It is not the most sophisticated. It is the one that keeps running when there is no workshop, no spare part, no factory representative, and no one left to call. That is not an accident. That is the deliberate engineering of a man who rebuilt a bankrupt firm on the banks of the Loire and decided that survival in the field was worth more than performance on a specification sheet. The Sahel proved him right.